Hi, welcome to Mission Funded, a grant advance podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and we have our co host, Nikki, here.
Hi, everyone.
And today we're going to be talking with Rick Dahlseid. He's an expert nonprofit CFO guru. Rick has over 20 years' experience in finance. He's a volunteer, a CFO, and a fractional CFO. And today he's sharing some amazing expertise, everything from board strategy, financial planning, and volunteer engagement. And we're so excited to have him here today.
So excited. Honestly, everything that he says is a wealth of information, and he's such a cool guy. I could have stayed on the phone with him all day. He's amazing.
Let's hop right into it then. Welcome. We're
So
so
nice to
excited.
meet you.
We're
Good
so
to meet you
excited
too.
to have you. Welcome to Mission Funded, a Grant Advance podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and we have our co-host Nikki here as well.
Great.
Hi.
Great. Yeah, we're really excited to have you here today. So let's get right into it.
Thank you
Mhm.
Rick,
very much for allowing me to be here. I really look forward to our talk.
great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we've been so excited as well. So excited. Thank
We've
you for
been,
taking the time to come in.
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. We've been kind of cyber stalking you a little bit. Like we
Ah, okay.
we are so excited to have you here today and just get your insight on things and chat with you about your knowledge on
Oh,
like grants and funding and all things nonprofits. And we're
okay.
so excited about it. So thank you so much again.
You're very welcome. I look forward to to be of service. So,
Perfect.
Wonderful. Let's get right into it then, Rick. So
yeah.
you have over 20 years of experience in this industry. Can you start by giving us a little bit about your background and how you got into
Sure.
nonprofit finance?
Okay. I was at a function last night talking with some students in accounting programs that were being awarded with just greatness in their own field students and sat next to a young man, Raj. Hopefully he's listening today and was asking, hey, how did you get into nonprofit accounting? And so took him through the story, through the history a little bit. Got my start really in public accounting and worked my way up through the ranks to becoming a tax manager at Grant Thornton. Uh,
Okay.
Left there, started my own firm, had that for about 3 years, and then sold it and moved into private accounting or working for an organization. Started with an organization that sold hiking boots, high-tech sports. You might have seen the brand at Costco. And
Yeah.
worked there for a few years and then went into healthcare adjacent, worked for American Medical Response, learning all about the medical side and transporting people. Did that for a few years, and then went into being a controller for a manufacturing organization that made large agricultural machinery.
Oh, wow.
And then from there, it's like, okay, this is like, what kind of background is this, right?
Yeah. Where did the nonprofits come in?
Right. And then wasn't having a really good time at the organization I was working at, and I was having breakfast with a dear friend, CPA, who had a nice big firm in the town that I grew up in or was working in. And he said, "Hey, we're looking for a CFO for our nonprofit. You should apply." And so it
Wow.
was a nonprofit hospice, and I knew nothing about hospice, nothing about nonprofits, and said, "Sure." And so the CEO took a shine to me and gave me a shot. And I had already attained my master's in taxation. I was a certified public accountant. And so he took a chance on me, Harold Peterson, great mentor. And I don't think he's listening, but we should send him a link anyway.
Absolutely.
Shout out. So I worked there for 12 years as a CFO for a nonprofit hospice, and that's where my love of nonprofits really took off. Working in that environment taught me not only the healthcare ins and outs, Medicare, Medi-Cal, billing, and commercial insurance and all that, but how to run a
Mm,
nonprofit that is well governed, which is so important in today's nonprofit environment, at which we don't see enough of good governance from the boards in nonprofits, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So left there and started doing some consulting. And at the time, we were living in Central California, and our kids and grandkids had moved to Southern California. We would come
okay.
down every little bit and visit. And on one of the return trips, my wife was kind of lamenting how much she missed the kids again. And I said, well, why don't we just move down there? And she said, okay.
Mhm.
And I said, oh my gosh, what did I just say? I can't take those words back. Um, my whole professional life and network had been established in Modesto, California, which is, by
Mm.
the way, the center of the universe. That's a different story. And I was like, I'm going to go to San Diego and where I know nobody except my kids and grandkids, and then establish myself. Well, that was 9 years ago, and quite frankly, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Mm.
Coming down here, I was able to be the chief financial officer for a very large nonprofit, Jewish Family Services of San Diego. And
Wow.
I had a wonderful experience there for about a year, and then went back into consulting and stayed in consulting for a good 6 years. While there, working with all different types of nonprofits, from higher education, churches, um, health and human services, environmental organizations, veteran organizations, just the whole gamut. And again, deeper into the nonprofit. I started teaching nonprofit financial management at two of the universities. I started volunteering at one of the universities for some of their big functions that they have, nonprofit governance symposium. So University of San Diego and UC San Diego, where I got to really apply my trade and help develop up and coming people that wanted to learn more about nonprofit financial management. It
Mhm.
is a little different. It's not just regular financial management. There's all these little nuances and stuff. Like, we don't really have customers, but we have donors, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of employees, but we have these things called volunteers. And so it's a little different, but nevertheless, it's been wonderful. And I really find that really gets me up in the morning to help organizations. So now, one of the clients that I had been consulting with as a fractional CFO, I was starting to work a lot of hours there, and you know what, this doesn't make sense. Let's look at you becoming an employee. So for the last year plus, I have been the chief financial officer for Janus of Santa Cruz, which is a leader in addiction treatment and recovery. You're saying, Rick, you live in
Wow.
San Diego, but you're working in Santa Cruz? Yes. So every other week I travel up to Santa Cruz and spend time up there, but otherwise I'm working remotely in San Diego. So I got to work in San Diego, and
Yeah.
I've got to work a block from the beach in Santa Cruz. It's tough, really
Y-
tough.
Sounds like a
Tough
tough life.
life there.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing, Rick. Like, honestly, I love what you said about, it gives you purpose, waking up every morning. And honestly, here at Grant Advance, that's how we all feel. Like, every single morning, we get to wake up and work with nonprofits, going out and helping people every single day. It is so, so important. So I really resonate with what you said there.
Mm.
Now, you did mention a fractional CFO. Can you walk
Mhm.
us through what that
Yeah.
actually looks like inside of an organization?
Sure. So in the United States, all across the fruited plain, we've got approximately 2 million nonprofits. And of course, those are just tax exempt organizations, is the technically correct term,
Mhm.
which means that the work that they do, they get the privilege of not having to pay corporate income tax. But in exchange for that, there's other things they have to do. So with that in mind, it's like, okay, smaller organizations need help too, but they might not have
Yes.
the budget to support a full-time position. So this idea of fractional work has really taken off, and especially in the nonprofit side. And that can be fractional from accounting or controllership to CFO. It could
Hmm.
work on the operations side as well. So this is not a full-time position. It's something less than a full-time position, or a fraction.
Hmm.
So therefore the term fractional. And what it allows is, the benefit that a CFO brings to an organization is largely strategic and forward thinking. Yes, in my experience, 20% of your time is spent on operations, looking kind of currently and backward, but 80% of your time is looking forward, what's coming, how to prepare for it, cash flow projections, what's happening in the government, where the funding is going to be challenged coming in, and how are we going to prepare for that. So that's the really advantage of a CFO. So a nonprofit organization, which typically is resource restricted in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
needs that, but they don't have all the resources to provide for that. So they'll
Yeah.
they'll go to an expert that works with nonprofits and say, "Hey, do you have 10 hours a week where you can come in and look at our stuff, keep us on track, maybe work with the auditors, other things that are very high level that you just can't hire or expect your internal staff to do for you. And the fractional world is growing by leaps and bounds, and it's expanding into other disciplines as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, you think about a grant writer, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's another fractional. That's probably where it all started because, yeah, I need a grant writer to write a grant, but I don't need one 40 hours a week, 52
Mm,
weeks a year. So
Right. Yeah.
absolutely.
you
And
get
so
what you need.
when does a nonprofit typically need a CFO? Are there like signs and
Yeah.
what are the benefits of bringing a fractional CFO in?
So I would couch it around gross receipts. Here in California, we have this wonderful law that's been around since 2004 called the Nonprofit Integrity Act, which stems from the Sarbanes-Oxley fiascos on the commercial side and for-profit organizations experienced, publicly traded companies, Enron and MCI and things like that, that caused Sarbanes-Oxley to come into play. Well, then California says, well, we're going to adopt that for nonprofits. 2004, they put this rule out. One of the provisions of that rule is if you have gross receipts of over $2 million, then you have to have an audit.
Oh.
Audit is a big step up, right? And there's a lot of things that go into an audit. And so that's where a CPA or a fractional CFO with experience can be really helpful to help guide the auditors through the process, give them the information they need, answer the questions in a way that doesn't create more havoc or more depth of digging. And so that's where a fractional CFO can come in at about a 2 million. Anything above maybe 10 million probably needs its own CFO
Okay.
in the nonprofit world, like a full-time CFO.
Yeah.
But south of 2 million, you could probably get by with just doing some outsourcing to an advisory firm that has qualified people that can help you manage some of the different projects that you're going to have during the year.
Good to know. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of nonprofits would want that extra help, especially like during an audit for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is great information. So, so when you're a fractional CFO, do you do a lot of board work? And what
Yeah.
would you say makes a strong board? And what role
Oh
does the
boy.
board play in the financial health of a nonprofit?
Okay.
That's a big
So,
question.
all right. So let's break that down. First question is, what's a good board? And I have an acronym I like to use called MARLIN. MARLIN. So when
Mm,
you hear of MARLIN, what do you think of? What comes to mind when you hear the word MARLIN?
the fish.
Right. What kind of fish?
This a swordfish? Is it a swordfish?
What about the size?
Oh, a big fish.
It's a
Big
big
fish.
fish, right?
Yeah.
So any board should have big fish on it. In other words, some in the development world they call them whales, but fish works too. Anyway, somebody with deep pockets that can write a big check or can
Hmm.
be a good resource for that. So overarching, you want that in your board. After
Mhm.
that, the M stands for marketing. You want a marketing professional. There's so much marketing communications work that goes on in nonprofits, collateral material, your logo, the name of the
Yeah.
organization, all that should be reviewed and through the lens of a marketing professional. So a marketing
Hmm.
professional, that's the M. A, accounting, of course. I'm going to be advocate for that. Somebody with a good, strong nonprofit accounting background, like an audit professional that knows nonprofit audit work, will be instrumental in helping the board develop good policies and making sure they stay on track. The L is legal. You need somebody with a good legal background, not to review all your contracts, but maybe to be a resource to put you in touch with the right people. I,
Hmm.
insurance. We need somebody with a good insurance background. There are a dozen different types of insurance that nonprofits and commercial organizations go through. And it's not like you need that person to be your broker, but you need somebody with the expertise to tell the board, hey, your assets of a certain size, you need to make sure you're covered that in you're mitigating any kind of risk or exposure. The other thing that's good about insurance people is they got a deep, deep contact list. So you're going to have a gala or a gala, whatever you prefer. Your insurance people are going to get people there. You're going to have a golf tournament. Your insurance people are going to get people there. So insurance people are good for that. And then
Yeah.
uh, MAR, the marketing people have a good contacts list too. The L, legal, I, insurance, and other nonprofit professionals. So that's how we spell out what is a really good board makeup. Now, how do we ensure that they're watching the bank, they're watching the financials? So in the financial world of reporting, we have three basic reports. We have a statement of financial position. In the commercial world, we call it a balance sheet. We have a statement of operations, or statement of statement of activity, and in the commercial world, we call it an income statement. Then we have a cash flow statement. Those are the three main reports we should be reviewing every month as the board. And the board should be hyper-focused on the first one, statement of financial position. That's where all the assets, liabilities, and owner's equity, or in this case, net assets are located. Those assets are so important. What the corporation owns, liabilities, what the organization owes, and the difference is what they're worth. So in the asset side, cash is king.
Yeah.
Cash is king, right? Everybody's heard that on both nonprofit and commercial sides. So how do we make sure we pay attention to that? We have metrics around that. The board is asking, how many days of cash do we have on hand? What kind of cash demands do we see coming up in the next 12 months? Where's our cash flow projection? Not cash flow statement, different document, cash flow projection. What's happening? Where are the peaks and valleys coming up in the next 3 to 4 months that we have to be concerned about? So the board is hyper-focused on the assets, liability, and the net assets. They've hired an executive director or CEO to manage the organization. That person's hiring all the people to run the organization, which all gets reflected in the statement of financial activities, or the income statement. So the board is aware, but they're not micromanaging that. They've hired an executive director to do that for them. So to answer your question about the board and the makeup and how they can best ensure an organization for success, there needs to be policies and procedures. There needs to be internal control policies. Do they have good policies around reserves, around spending limits? All those things are important. So any good procedure is backed up by a policy, and the policy is, again, the purview of the board. And it takes me back to real quickly that where a lot of organizations fail and fall is not in a good, strong governance and understanding what the roles, responsibilities of board members are. Many board members get there because they say, hey, I started this nonprofit, I'm a founder, and I need somebody to come help me, and you're my neighbor and you're a good friend, why don't you come help me? No thought to utilization, functionality. And so if you're intentional about staffing a board correctly and recruit good board members, the organization is set up for success.
Yeah, and that actually would take me right into my next question, was talking about strategy. What does a forward-looking strategy look like? And you kind of just answered that, but do you want to kind of
I'll
expand
flesh
on
it
that
out
a little bit more?
Sure. Thanks, Nikki. So strategic planning, that's the board. I mean, that's part of the duty of care, duty of responsibility, duty of loyalty, duty of obedience of a board member is the duty of care, which means they're paying attention, they're doing things intellectually honestly. So they're reviewing financial reports, but also there's a budget involved, right? Before the year starts, they've helped prepare a budget, and then they've got a strategic plan. Like, what do we want to do for the next 3 to 5 years? How do we see this organization impacting the community or whatever the geographical location that it's operating in? So in order to do that, you need a strategic plan. You need to have somebody help the organization walk through what its goals and objectives are, put them on paper, and then measure against that each and every month. There should be a report back to the board each and every month from the executive director or the CEO saying, here's how we're meeting this particular goal. We're ahead, we're behind. Here's what's bottlenecking, here's challenges, or all of a sudden we met the goal. All right, we made it early, celebrate. What's the next one? So having a good, solid strategic plan involves a process. The board needs to go through a process to understand what a strategic plan is and then how to put one in place. Usually that's done with a facilitator over a long weekend or a couple of days in a room with sticky notes going on the wall.
Perfect. That's amazing.
Can you maybe share a success story or like a story of a transformation with us?
Wow. So I'll talk about my current situation with Janus of Santa Cruz. This is an organization that started 50 years ago, and it's currently in Santa Cruz County, which is a county of about 270,000 people. It is the leader in addiction treatment and recovery. And the world and the movement of addiction treatment and recovery, you watch television and you see episodes about somebody going to an AA meeting, or somebody's in rehab, or they just got out of rehab, and so those are all components and bits and pieces of the process. But really, it starts with meeting somebody where they're at, and this is what
Hmm.
Janice does really well. So they meet somebody where they're at, and the person is struggling with their addiction. They want to get through it. They want to get out of it, and so we help them through that by providing hope healing for them with a medically provided program that is evidence-based and data-driven. So in the past, 50 years ago, when AA really was taken off, and there's nothing bad to say about AA, they have their place. This is really a social services model where it's not medical, it's not data-driven and evidence-based, it's more anecdotal. Yeah, my
Hmm.
uncle went through AA and he's been clean for or sober for 25 years now. Great, congratulations. Keep it up. However, the people that are in the throes of addiction in the moment, it's really hard for them, and there needs to be a higher level of intervention, and typically that's
Hmm.
medical. So the world is moving to a medical model of that, and Janice is moving right along with that and leading the way. So
It's really beautiful.
the American Society of Addiction Medicine, ASAM, is kind of the overarching not really governing, but they're setting the standards. So in the world of accounting, it would be like the AICPA, or in the world of grants and such, it might be the Association of AHP, the folks that work in that. So
Hmm.
um, in the world of addiction and recovery, we are constantly evolving and working towards more sane, medical proven outcomes. Now, I'm getting to the story here of the success. So we've been doing that, and we've been noticed. It's like, hey, there's not very many people, not very many organizations in California that are doing it that way. There's probably, from what I've seen, less than a dozen. And
Mm.
so out of maybe 20,000 different community-based organizations throughout
Mm.
the state of California that are doing that, most of them are trying to figure out how to get to where we're at. And so we're
Hmm.
helping lead the way in some of that with coaching through the Center of Excellence and some grants that we've received. But what's coming up short is bed space, where to put
Hmm.
people that need withdrawal management or a higher level, they have a higher level of acuity and they need more medical attention to go through some recovery treatment, um,
Mhm.
rehab, to say it loosely. So the government in California, a few years back, our governor, Gavin Newsom, said, we've got to do something about this. And it was really highly pointed at homelessness, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
a lot that's been very much a top tier problem in California, that we seem to have a more higher propensity of homelessness than anywhere else in
Hmm.
the United States. The cousin to homelessness is addiction,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they go somewhat hand in hand. So there was a need, a real need saw that we need some bed space. So the state of California arranged for what they call Prop 1. They passed a bond proposal that funded upwards of, I don't know, $3 to $4 billion to go towards homelessness and addiction and creating bed space. Well, bed space translates into something like brick and mortar. You need a
Hmm.
facility. So the
Hmm.
state of California said, hey, we're going to start passing some money out to these organizations, but there's going to be a process. They're going to have to get in line, put a proposal in, and then we'll review it. And then if we like it, we'll give you some money. And
Yeah.
so that came through the state of California Department of Healthcare Services, which deals with behavioral health segment, homelessness, addiction. And they
Yeah.
said, hey, we need to call for proposals. So we got in line and said, hey, we want to be part of that. So we put in a
Hmm.
proposal for a women's and children facility, 25 bed, to take care of women that are going through recovery that may have the substance abuse disorder. And so
Hmm.
Mhm.
we got awarded almost five
Wow.
and a half million dollars to build this
Wow.
facility in Watsonville, and we're underway. We're about 50% complete on that.
That's
Thanks
amazing.
to the behavioral health folks, the Department of Healthcare Services. There's an organization called AHP that's kind of gatekeeper that keeps us all doing the right work to get funded for that. So that was the first project. That's 50% done. Then they
Oh,
opened
wow.
another round. They
That's
said, hey,
amazing.
we need some more bed space. We're going to call it Bond One, Round One. You guys should apply. So we did. $45 million got awarded for that project. So what did
Wow.
we do? We went and bought a hotel. We bought a
Wow.
three-story, 96-bed roadway inn right off the freeway in Watsonville. And now
Wow.
that's going to get converted into a 120-bed residential treatment facility with a medical clinic and some other functionality to it as well. So that's the second success story. That's underway.
Wow.
Third, they said, we're going to have round two. You guys should apply. All right, okay. So we did it again, and they awarded another $6 million for another project. We're
Hmm.
going to buy a two-story medical clinic office complex and move one of our clinics there and do some ambulatory withdrawal management and some other counseling and therapy sessions there. So we're allowing the state of California to help us really level up our appearance
Hmm.
and the services that we're able to provide. When you think about going into, just like when we go to the doctor now, right? How do we feel if we go into a new doctor and it's just kind of scungy and the furniture's
Yeah.
kind of old and ripped and it's just not, just doesn't feel right, right?
You just want to leave.
Yeah. So
Very sanitary.
in the nonprofit world, nonprofits are largely the organizations that are providing this addiction treatment and recovery outside of county health systems and things like that. So even county government stuff can be a bit depressing, but we're trying to really up the ante on
Hmm.
and providing environments that are pleasing, that are
Mhm.
welcoming, and so
Hmm.
people want to come back. And because
Absolutely.
they need it, they need to come back, they need to keep working through the process. So
Yeah.
those are the success stories that we've had just recently. We're seeing just a tremendous amount of growth. So that's going to
Hmm.
expand our programs, our outreach. One more thing I'll add. Through the Sierra Health Foundation in Sacramento, they awarded us a grant to create mobile clinics
Wow.
to take it out on the road to people. So we've
That's
got
amazing.
the county of Santa Cruz has a high population in the north and a high population in the south. And
Hmm.
so we've got two vans at each location. One is going to be what we call a medication van, and the other one is going to be an outreach and counseling van. So those will
That's
go out into the
amazing.
communities and the rural areas where people don't have easy access or transportation back into the larger metropolitan area to get their treatment. We're going to go to them.
Hmm.
We're going to bring it to them. So
That's
there's some success stories for you.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
thanks,
that
Rick.
just blew me away. That's really, you know what I really when you were telling your story and you said they came back to us and said, "Hey, reapply." Like
Yeah.
how significant your your impact made on them that they came to you and said, apply again. We want to keep helping you. Like that really speaks volumes to your work as well as the way that you take the money, the grant money, and you apply it to your mission. And I think that is
Mhm.
just absolutely beautiful. And something that we talk about quite frequently at Grand Advance is year after year funders and finding people that
Mhm.
align themselves with your mission. So I really love that you had mentioned that because I think that is so important, whether it's a state grant or a family foundation grant or something like that. When you create that connection with somebody, they're going to come to you and say, "Hey, we're doing another round. Bring in your application
Mhm.
again," right?
Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely so powerful, Rick. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. That's absolutely beautiful.
And
Um,
just like you said, Nikki, we can't do this work alone.
mhm,
It's incumbent upon us to collaborate, to work with other people, other organizations, governments, what have you. We
mhm,
couldn't do the good work we're doing without the County of Santa Cruz being fully
mhm.
behind us and providing
Absolutely.
a lot of our funding through the Medi-Cal program to be able to reach these vulnerable populations in their time of need and help them.
Mhm.
Together with that, we can't do it without the 200 employees that work at Janus, that their
Yeah.
heart, many of which have lived experience, have been
Hmm.
through the program. Our
Wow.
CEO 5 years ago became our CEO, but she got started 25 years ago at Janus coming through one of the programs. So,
Wow.
I mean,
That's
it's full circle,
full.
and it works. And those relationships throughout the whole state of California, up and down the coast, especially in Sacramento, are just invaluable because they see the data-driven, evidence-based work that we're doing and the
Hmm.
progress, and they want more of it. They say, do it like Janice.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I can
absolutely
feel your
amazing, Rick.
passion. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for sharing those stories,
Yeah.
Rick. Like I just like my heart is just I love that. That is why we do this every day is for
Hmm.
stories like this and for outcomes like that. That's so beautiful. So I do have a question
Yeah.
with I know that there's a lot of uncertainty in funding right now.
Mm.
I mean, if we look at the past year, we can see that the funding is kind of going up and down. How far ahead should nonprofits be realistically planning financially? Are we thinking like month to month? Are we thinking a year out? What would be your advice to
18,
a nonprofit?
yeah, 18 months. I think cash is king.
Hmm.
Cash flow projection out 18 months. See where the peaks and valleys are, where you're going to backfill with maybe a line of credit or other funding to see how you're going to do. You don't want to get to the month that's going to be the dry month and realize you can't make payroll.
Hmm.
And so, backing that up too with a reserve policy. The organization should have a solid reserve policy. I like at least a 6 month reserve, 180 days.
Hmm.
If you can't start with that, start with something. But
Hmm.
if you put away mathematically 5% of your bottom line, your revenue in excess of expenses, whatever that number is, 5% of that, you put that away every month. In less than 5 years, you will have a 90-day reserve. So
Wow.
it's achievable. You can do it. It takes
Hmm.
discipline, yes. It takes a strong board, that's demanding of these things, yes. But once you have that policy, now you've got a little
Hmm.
bit of a rainy day fund. And then you have
Yeah.
a policy around what can you use that for, when you have to replenish it, how often it gets looked at. That's all part of the policy. So again, policies really help drive the governance of a nonprofit.
Yeah.
So looking at 18 months is important because what we know is happening today, I think what we're looking at specifically is the federal government is tightening on states that so the federal government through the Medicare and Medicaid system, those are the funds that flow to the states for Medicare services and then Medicaid, which we call Medi-Cal in California.
Hmm.
Those services are being constrained. And so with that constraint, that money flows to the state, down to the county, and down to us.
Hmm.
There's constraint along the way. Each one's taking their cut too. So by the time it gets to us, it's even little bit less. So we have to figure out other ways to bring in funding. So what a
Yeah.
lot of organizations, and this is really going to speak to your guys in your audience as well, make sure your philanthropy team is strong, that you've got
Hmm.
a good vision. You're connecting with the community, marketing, communications, telling your story, making sure
Mhm.
people understand the impacts, doing annual reports, having a robust website. All those things need to be working strong to keep money funding in from other areas. And then looking
Yeah.
for grants. Having somebody that their main job is out searching the internet for grant opportunities to bring in
Hmm.
more funding to help you do the work you're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that really speaks to the reserve fund. I know that that came with a nonprofit that I am linked to. The reserve fund literally carried them through COVID
Yeah.
because they had a strong reserve fund. And I know that a lot of people, it's so easy to be, well, we've got this money sitting here. Let's just use it for our project instead of going out and finding funding, right?
Yeah.
But being kind of like what you said, being, strict with having it as a reserve fund for things like COVID or unexpected,
Hmm.
things that come up. And so I really like that. A lot of people don't think about the reserve fund, but how important it really is. I
Yeah.
like the 18 months as well. That's
Mhm.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Those are
Yeah, I
good
think it's really
financial principles to follow.
Yeah, maybe even for our personal lives too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of, again, data driven, right? So we talk about cash as king. Well, and if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, then you know the
Mm.
position Hand of the King.
Yeah.
And I call data Hand of the King. So
Mm.
that's cash is king, data's Hand of the King. So data is so important, and you need a robust team that is collecting data, evaluating data, reporting outcomes, because all that's linked to your success as an organization.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
That's
important to be
amazing.
proactive rather than
Yeah.
just being reactive, right?
Mhm.
And that kind of leads me into the next question. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you think that nonprofits are facing right now, from a financial perspective?
Yeah, so talent. I think talent is probably
Oh.
the biggest challenge right now. Funding is certainly up there, but if you don't have the right people, doesn't matter. You're not going to get the job done. So talent, um, attraction, and retention is huge. You know,
Hmm.
nobody ever said, and I don't know where it's written, that you work for a nonprofit, you take a vow of poverty.
Mm. Hmm.
That doesn't exist in my world. You should
Yeah.
pay competitively as a nonprofit, just like
Yeah.
commercial organizations. If you want talent, you want to achieve, you want to make an impact, you got to pay for that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
And
but
I'm not,
it's like they're running on tight money though a lot of the time, right? So I think that's
well,
where they.
right. So what does that say? It doesn't say anything about the quality of the people you have as far
Hmm.
as you're not, I mean, you're going to get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to really achieve greatness, you're going to have to spend a little more on the payroll side. So and attraction and retention is important too. So,
Hmm.
um, the biggest expense that a nonprofit has is labor and benefits. You know, that's
Hmm.
probably 80 to 85% of their budget goes to that. So
Hmm.
you've got to spend a lot of time and do it right. Um, you know, take some time, do some salary surveys, make
Yeah.
sure, depending on how many employees you have, maybe you don't have any employees, maybe you're volunteer driven. That's okay. I'm
Hmm.
on a board of a nonprofit that's all volunteer driven. We get a lot of stuff done. We get
Hmm.
awards, and we only have a $25,000 a year budget. But
Wow.
I
Oh.
think there's always something you can do to make the organization better and more attractive, and
Hmm.
that needs to be a focus. Um, Sometimes in the nonprofit world, there's a mindset of scarcity.
Hmm.
And I think that has to flip to abundance. There is more than enough money in the community, in the state, in the United States to help you get your mission accomplished. There, it's out there. You just have to
Hmm.
be very intentional and maybe creative on how you go about getting that. And so I
Well,
would
you're
just,
proof of that, right? With what you've done for
well,
the
yeah.
organization you're working with,
Hmm.
right?
You need innovation.
Hmm.
There's just a lot you need in the nonprofit world that you can borrow from the commercial world. You know, from our far for-profit friends, you can borrow some of that stuff over, and it translates.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But you know, paying people what they're worth is probably the start of it. Taking care of your people first will
Hmm.
help take care of all your clients. I think Richard Branson said that, Virgin Airlines CEO. You know,
Okay.
Hmm.
take care of your people first, they'll take care of your customers,
Yeah.
clients that
I've
have
heard
them.
I've heard of that.
What do we see as far as turbulent times coming? So certainly employees are probably at the core of a successful organization, need the most attention. But what else is out there that we should be concerned about is in the political world. And so with respect to, like in our situation with what's happening with the federal government, that needs to be
Mm.
paid attention to and thought well through. In addition, nonprofits can advocate for their positions. They can
Hmm.
go to their legislators, their county supervisors, and they can advocate for law changes. We have done that. We have created and worked with our local legislators to create new laws that affect the addiction and treatment recovery movement,
Mm.
Hmm.
which have been beneficial for everybody. And it's just like, well, why didn't we think of that? And
Hmm.
so we're advocating for that. And so I just don't want I want organizations to not shy away from, oh, we're a nonprofit, we can't do that. Who told you that? Because they're
Yeah.
not
They can
telling you
make
the
a
truth.
difference. They just have
Yeah.
to, yeah, they can take
There's a
the,
way to do it, and you do
yeah,
it
Yeah.
right, you're fine. Yeah.
they got to make the effort
Perfect.
though, right? And actually go for it and
Yeah.
take those next steps, right? But they can make a
Hmm.
change for sure.
Yeah. So with talking about, the uncertainty of for nonprofits and all these
Mhm.
things, what would good financial forecasting look like for a nonprofit?
Yeah. So some kind of a report that's produced routinely, monthly at least, that's giving a forward look into the forecast of what what's going to happen with cash, where the cash is coming from, what the big demands on cash are going to be. Because
Hmm.
it's and many times, like in our case, it's more than just the operations. We've got three uh, facility projects, capital infrastructure
Hmm.
projects going on. That takes cash. So we've got to be very mindful of the timing of all that. So
Hmm.
you've got to have some kind of an accurate reporting. And then secondly, I think making sure that um, you are being prudent with respect to the work that you're doing. So
Hmm.
whatever it is that the nonprofit is doing, they are either receiving money um, from contributions, that philanthropy. So that's a
Mhm.
whole nother area, making sure philanthropy is strong, running good. You got somebody that's in charge of that. But then alternatively, inside the organization, you might be doing things that what we call fee for service. There's something you're
Hmm.
doing and you're getting paid for that. And you're contracted with somebody, some organization to do that, like a government or maybe just a community. And so making sure that whatever is involved with the work that you are doing in order for you to get paid is happening. So
Hmm.
looking at the procedures that the organization is going through, how long is it taking to get paid from these organizations that you're contracted with? Is that what's the benchmark? Is that normal? Should it be shorter? One of the things I get to do with organizations is as I work as still as a consultant, as you could probably imagine, um, providing an assessment, a financial
Hmm.
management assessment, looking
Yeah.
at from A to Z what they're doing in the financial side, from all the inputs through reporting and annual reports and things like that. And how tight is that? Is there slippage? Are we writing off too much in income throughout the year? What are the pain points? What's
Yeah.
keeping the executive director, the CEO up at night?
Hmm.
Most often it's people issues, but there could be some structural challenges, and
Hmm.
so having a good plan and making sure that the operations on the financial manager side are tight.
Yeah. And that's great advice. I think that that really leads into with all those things in place and a good strategy, like nonprofits, everything that you've said today has been like all nonprofits should be taking notes because this is absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
And you've given such fantastic insight
Thank
to
you.
all the little things that goes into being on a nonprofit board as a CFO. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Rick.
My
Yeah, and
pleasure.
I've also heard you mention volunteer engagement before. So can we talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
importance of transparency and volunteer engagement for long-term sustainability? I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
So volunteers, I call the secret sauce of a nonprofit.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that is a whole nother workforce that you have to help the organization through sticky times and fill gaps, and it starts at the board and goes all the way down to the frontline people. There's volunteers that can go all up and down the organization. And
hmm.
so depending on what the need of the organization is, where they're falling short through maybe an assessment, they could supplement some of that with volunteers. Not going to cost them anything. They're going to allow somebody to come in and help them with something. It's going to give that person a great sense of satisfaction that they're helping their favorite nonprofit. At the same time, it's going to help move the mission forward. And
Hmm.
so volunteer engagement is so important. That can't be overlooked and are stressed enough that um, the outcomes of the organization can hinge largely on the volunteer activities. So what you have to have there, just like employees, a good attraction, retention program for volunteers, honoring their service. And so that I've worked in organizations that had a person dedicated to being the volunteer coordinator,
Mm,
in conjunction with kind of the HR department to make sure they're onboarded right, their questions are answered, they're celebrated where they need to. Maybe they are incurring expenses on behalf of the organization, then they can get reimbursed for that. So
hmm.
all that, I mean, it's important that that group of people, volunteers, is shepherded by somebody who understands the importance of having that extra set of resources for the organization.
And you
Yeah,
would
they're
think with
super important.
the, sorry, you would think with like somebody that is managing them and giving them direction and managing them, like I said, you would think that the volunteers would feel better about coming and volunteering in an organization that is
Yeah.
well organized like that.
Mhm.
Like you're going to find more people are wanting to come in and volunteer when you have a structure that is clear and confident. And, I know like if I was to volunteer somewhere, I want to know what I'm doing. I want to
Mhm.
know where I'm going to be going and all these things. And instead of just kind of being fumbled around. So I think I really like that, volunteer coordinator. I think that that's really a key thing to volunteers and successful volunteers coming into your organization.
Yeah, and you can extend that to making sure that they're onboarded correctly, that they're checked in with regularly. There's some kind of a system to track their time.
Hmm.
Th Those are all things that are paramount to a successful volunteer engagement. And you don't want to leave your volunteers just floating out there or drifting.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that they are engaged, just like an employee. I mean, everything is the same in my view, as having an employee, except they're not getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
But they're not there for the paycheck. They're there because they believe in the mission, which is
Hmm.
hugely emotionally empowering to have people that want to see you succeed for that. Now, some people come and want to volunteer because they want to just know more about the organization because maybe they're thinking about giving. I mean, there
Hmm.
could be a potential philanthropy connection there, or maybe they want to test out the organization because they want to get on a committee and maybe eventually apply to be a board member.
Yeah.
So these are resources that are just very important and shouldn't be overlooked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I believe that, the volunteers, they need to be encouraged and they have to have their tasks and their things to do.
Mhm.
Otherwise, maybe they're just kind of waiting around. And
Yeah.
they're really crucial for the long-term sustainability of any organization as well. So,
Hmm.
They're ambassadors out in the community.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
volunteer at a museum as a docent here in San Diego, and I carry little brochures in my pocket and give them to people to come visit our museum, come check it out. It's going to be great. So I'm out there like selling this museum and as a volunteer
Yeah.
because I feel so strongly about it and I want people to come see it. So
That is so cool. What kind of
yeah.
museum is it now? I'm curious.
it's
It just,
the it's the Navy SEAL Museum of San Diego.
that's
Cool.
really cool.
It is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's it was opened in October, and I've been a docent since shortly after that. Now, I was not a Navy SEAL. I wasn't
Mm.
even in the military, but I'm a big supporter of that program. And here in San Diego, where we have Naval Special Warfare training and SEALs are trained here, there's a
Hmm.
big population of Navy SEALs. And
Yeah.
so I just want to figure out ways to honor them as a patriot and just a supporter. So yeah, I
That's
get to do that,
amazing.
and I get to serve alongside of other people that are docents that were Navy SEALs, and it's just very um, rewarding for me.
Yeah,
Felt that
absolutely.
way.
That sounds absolutely. So for me, could you, what is a docent? I'm just
Oh,
curious.
yeah, it's a volunteer that basically is in the museum to help answer questions and yeah, point people in the right direction. A guide,
Like a
a
walking information center.
yeah, a Sherpa, yeah,
That's amazing. That's really cool.
yeah.
I love that. That's
Like in
I'm a
an art
huge
museum, there might be the Mona Lisa up there, and someone says, "Who's that?" It's like, "Oh, well, let me tell you. Here's a
yeah.
little history."
Yeah.
And yeah,
No, that's really cool. I love that. I think that yeah, going around passing out brochures for something
yeah.
that you feel passionate about, that's amazing. And it's so helpful to the organizations. Like I think that's great work that you're doing across the board with
Hmm.
Janice, with,
Oh,
the
thank you.
museum. Like it's beautiful work that you're doing.
Well, come to San Diego. I'll give you a tour.
You know what? I'll be on the next flight out. I
Okay.
I could use a little sunshine.
It's America's finest city, and we love having our tourists here. So,
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I know I would love to go back and visit. And if I do, that museum is on my list for sure.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Amazing. And when you mentioned about the hotels, like I've seen that organizations will buy up the old hotels that have been abandoned and then they'll turn them into like a homeless shelter.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it happens all over, I've seen.
this hotel that we bought was a functioning hotel until the day we took ownership, and then it was ours. So it had been operating as a hotel right off the freeway, and now it's ours.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
amazing because
Yeah.
I've seen people buy up the abandoned ones before because they're
Uh-huh.
just kind of sitting there, right? Rather than
Yeah.
tearing it down, I guess, that makes a lot of sense. But I think that you're doing so much amazing work out there. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's
So,
Yeah.
evident that you're super passionate about everything that you do as well. So,
Yeah,
mhm.
truly. Well,
Yeah,
we are so thankful that you could join us today.
my pleasure.
Um, and you have brought so much expertise for,
Mm.
people like even just going back into the fractional CFO, like,
Hmm.
so many people might not have even realized that that's an option. And they might say, we need somebody to look at our budget, but we can't afford a full-time CFO, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
even bringing that to people's awareness and talking about Marlin, that was amazing. I think that's really great. I love those kind of things. They just really stick in my
Yeah.
brain. And I think that that's really fantastic that you have this framework of a successful board and what we're looking for and how to keep that, the board and the nonprofit on track for, many months and years to come. I think that
Hmm.
your expertise is hugely valuable and
Thank you.
really, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's all about sustainability. Whatever we do, we have to have an eye toward the future because if we're not here anymore, then we can't have the impact of
Hmm.
why we were created in the first place,
Absolutely.
around the mission. So,
Absolutely.
very true.
No,
well,
that's
thank you very
amazing.
much. This is awesome. I love these kind of opportunities to talk about what I do, what I've done, what I'm doing, how I can help the nonprofit world building up capacity. That's just really toots my horn or rings my
Yeah.
bell or something.
And you know what? It really shows. Like your work and the even the passion that you talk about it with, it really does show.
Yeah.
And I can tell you when you said that, your wife said that you guys wanted to move to San Diego to be closer to the grandkids. I said, "Oh, those are some lucky kids that you have that the grandparents are now moving closer. That is a blessing. Let me tell you, that is amazing." Um,
Well, we've enjoyed it. And 2 years ago, we had him for 7 good years. 2 years ago, my oldest daughter with her family of six, and my
mm.
son and his family of four said, "We're moving to Tennessee."
Oh my
Oh my gosh.
So now we fly back to Tennessee every couple of months to see them, but we're not moving to Tennessee. We're totally entrenched in San Diego and we're loving it.
Yeah, no,
Unless an
that
opportunity arises, right, Rick? Okay, then you never say
I
never.
know. We got the ocean, we got the
yeah.
great weather. I'm happy here.
I don't blame you. I'd stay in
They
San
might come
Diego.
back. Who knows?
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? They might be like, you know what? It was really nice living close to mom and dad. We need to go back.
That's we're gonna hold out for that.
Yeah, I think it'll happen. Well, thank you again so much, Rick. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I know we went a little bit over today, but really, really appreciate the conversation. It has been such
Thanks.
an absolute blessing to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, and Steph. Thank you very much for the opportunity as well. I'll look forward to seeing the replay at some point and sharing it out to my LinkedIn network and spreading the word too. So
Absolutely. We will share it with you as soon as it's done. And thank you so much. We usually do, YouTube and we put it on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all the things, but we'll send you all of the information.
thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. You
Thanks
Awesome.
guys
so much.
have a great rest of your day. Take
You
Thanks,
care.
too.
Rick. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
so much.